The room buzzed with false laughter as I stood in the shadows, clutching the letter that tore apart my world, revealing my family's betrayal. The cold chill of contempt settled deep within me like a stone. I felt like a ghost in this grand house, a place I once called home, surrounded by people who now seemed like strangers cloaked in mockery. My brother Alex and sister-in-law Marissa took center stage, their animated conversation fading into a muffled buzz as my heart pounded in my chest. I was Clara Evans, 34 years old, and until this moment, I thought I truly knew my family. I had spent years pouring my heart into taking care of my father, whose dying health had consumed our household. In doing so, I'd put aside my hopes and dreams, believing that my sacrifices would bind us tighter. Yet now, in this bitter moment, I came to realize that secrets, like poison, had been swirling quietly around me, hidden in the corners of our opulent home. As I lingered just out of sight, I watched the masquerade unfold. Marissa flashed a flawless smile as she fawned over Alex, her eyes sparkling with something cruel and satisfied. They thought they had left me with nothing, but I was left with everything. I uttered within myself, each word a sharp reminder that my family's love had always hinged on my utility. That irony cut deep, the laughter crescendoed, pulling me back to the revelry. Marissa leaned closer to Alex, whispering gossip that sparked an uproar, and for a painful instant, I imagined being part of their world again, a world that had turned its back on me. Standing there, resentment coursed through me like a bitter wine. I was the one who had once baked cakes for their celebrations, the one who had ensured everything was perfect, but now I was a keeper of their disdainful secrets. Suddenly, Marissa's laughter rang out, sharp and cruel, slicing through the air. "Did you see the look on Clara's face when we told her to move out? As if anyone would miss her?" she remarked, her tone dripping with contempt, the words aimed like poisoned arrows. I felt my cheeks flush with humiliation, not from the sting of her words, but from the reality that I had become their convenient scapegoat, someone to blame for all their discontent. I wanted nothing more than to step forward, to confront them, to take back some semblance of my dignity. But instead, I swallowed hard, remaining still and silent. The echoes of laughter and celebration wrapped around me like a noose, tightening just as I felt my hope evaporate. This was not the family I had cherished. This was a band of conspirators, reveling in the fallout of my naivety. Memories flooded my mind, the countless nights spent studying, hoping to one day elevate our family's standing, the gifts I had planned for each one of them, the laughter we once shared during the holidays. Those joyous moments were now tainted by their collective greed. Each sentiment I had offered became weapons to be used against me, stripped of their original warmth. I felt the walls closing in, the peeling wallpaper bearing witness to my silent suffering. My heart ached at the distance that had grown between us, the memories of festivities fading alongside my hopes for redemption. The contrast between the warmth of childhood gatherings and the chilling reality of my new existence pressed down on me. I yearned for a time when love was bountiful, yet here I was, caught in a web of resentment. But amid the raging storm of my emotions, I understood something essential. They might have left me with nothing, but in this dark moment, I realized I was still whole, still me, even as they plotted my downfall. The strength I had nurtured while caring for my dying father throbbed deep within me, a flicker refusing to be doused. I would find a way to reclaim my story, to turn my pain into a beacon of light. Please confirm if you would like to continue with Section 2. In the days that followed my family's betrayal, I found myself consigned to the servants' quarters, a dark space that had once symbolized my dedication to duty. Now it felt more like a dungeon, and I was the prisoner shackled by memories. Humiliation clung to me like a cloak, heavy and suffocating. While laughter echoed from the main hall, I was left to stew in my isolation, the air thick with unexpressed sorrow and anger, memories swirling in my mind like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. Those memories twisted into sharp thorns, reminding me of the countless nights spent studying, hoping to elevate our family's standing, sacrificing my dreams for theirs. It wasn't just a single act of betrayal, it was a lifetime of them. Each time I had placed their needs before my own felt as if it had opened up a wound that refused to heal. In those moments, I had convinced myself that my sacrifices would lead to recognition and gratitude, yet now I stood stripped of all illusions, surrounded by the fading whispers of what I had once believed was love. The laughter and clinking of glasses filtered through the walls, taunting me. The warmth of family gatherings felt like a distant dream, overshadowed by the current coldness of their hearts. Memories of joyous moments, like the birthday parties I meticulously planned for Alex, complete with handmade decorations and gourmet meals, now felt like ghosts that haunted me, reminders of joy turned to bitterness. I managed to hold on to the warmth of those memories, allowing them to keep the embers of hope alive within me. There was a time when I would spend weeks planning birthday surprises for Alex, anticipating the joy on his face as he tore open gifts wrapped with care. I can still almost taste the rich chocolate cake I had perfected over countless trials, its sweetness now tainted by the cruelty of his betrayal. Each effort I made had been a stitch in the fabric of our family, but as I watched them rip it apart, I felt powerless. The distance between who I had been and who I was now only seemed to widen. My heart ached at the memories of the celebratory gatherings, the warmth of my family replaced with the chill of isolation and resentment. Their voices, once a source of comfort, now twisted into despicable reminders of my status as an outcast. I longed to reclaim those bonds, to have my contributions recognized, my love appreciated, but I was trapped in the walls of my family's hypocrisy. Amid this overwhelming storm of emotions, clarity began to form. They might have left me with nothing but an empty room and shattered dignity, yet I was still Clara Evans. In that dark moment, I realized that I still possessed an inner strength, the quiet resolve forged through years of caring for others. My father's deteriorating health had painted a stark parallel to my own readiness to serve, but I wouldn't let that readiness be my undoing. Instead, it would become the foundation of my resurgence, a flicker of determination refusing to be extinguished. The realization that I was still whole, still a person of worth, began to take root within me. My family's betrayals, once devastating, now ignited a fire within my spirit. If they thought they could snuff out the light I had nurtured all my life, they had gravely underestimated my resilience. I reflected on the lessons my father had taught me about sacrifice, love, and strength in the face of adversity. Those memories would guide me, not to a place of vengeance, but to personal reclamation. Driven by that determination, I turned my focus inward, contemplating my heritage and the teachings of my father. His study had been a treasure trove of knowledge, a space filled with the stories and hopes he had woven into our family's legacy. It was time for me to reconnect with that history, to discover if there were still pieces of me hidden away in documents and artifacts that had been overlooked. One afternoon filled with this fresh sense of resolve, I gathered my courage and entered my father's study once again. The door creaked open, revealing shelves lined with leather-bound books, each promising the remnants of our family's story. Dust motes wafted through the air, twinkling in the sunlight as if to beckon me closer. This had been my sanctuary during my tumultuous adolescence, a place where my dreams had bloomed and where I had felt most assured of my place. It was among those books that I found a forgotten drawer within a mahogany desk, a piece of furniture that had often felt impenetrable, lonely like my current existence. As I pried it open, the familiar scent of aged paper filled the air, bringing with it a tale of our history, now tangled with secrets. Inside, documents lay wedged like old letters sealed in time, layered with dust but unmarred by my family's greed. That was when I discovered it, a folder filled with legal documents detailing a hidden trust, buried under the weight of my family's deception. My heart raced as I read through the pages, each line confirming a truth I had never been made aware of. My pulse quickened, excitement intertwining with disbelief. This was an inheritance deliberately withheld from me, part of the legacy my brother and sister-in-law had conspired to bury. "Gerald," I whispered breathlessly, as the realization settled over me like a comforting blanket, one I could draw upon as I gathered the courage to act. Gerald was the family lawyer, a man I had always respected for his integrity, and it was time to contact him. I rushed to find my phone, anxiety and hope battling for dominance. The call connected, and his formal tone, seasoned with the familiarity of our past interactions, greeted me. "Clara, I didn't expect to hear from you. Are you well?" I hesitated. The weight of the moment threatened to crush my newfound clarity. "I need to know about the trust, the one concerning my father's estate." Silence stretched for a heartbeat, and I held my breath, hoping that my emotions didn't betray me. "Ah, the trust," he finally responded, his voice steady but shaded with an unspoken gravity. "Yes, Clara, the documents are legitimate. The trust is worth far more than you know." In that moment, my world shifted. I was no longer a victim, but a woman with the means to reclaim her power. Fueled by the same fierce love I had used to care for my family, I found a renewed determination. During those darkest days, I found a framework that changed everything for me. The complete guide I followed is outlined in the first comment below. It might help if you're facing something similar. With my heart pounding and resolve strengthening, I carefully tucked the documents away, ready to devise a plan that would unravel the deceitful web my family had woven. They thought they could erase my existence from their lives, but soon they would learn that Clara Evans was not so easily forgotten. Please confirm if you would like to continue with Section 3. With each passing day, an exhilarating blend of determination and anxiety surged through me. I was no longer the passive observer in my family's unfolding drama. For the first time in my life, I was poised to reclaim my worth. The trust I had uncovered, laden with promises and possibilities, became my anchor. Each detail disclosed by Gerald strengthened my resolve. It was proof that I was deserving, that I mattered, even when my own family had tried to render me invisible. Retreating to the shadows of my old room, I immersed myself in the newly discovered documents, skimming through words that held the key to my future. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I clutched the pages containing my inheritance. With that power in my grasp, my mind raced with the many paths forward, each strategy more tantalizing than the last. But before I could execute any of them, meticulous planning was crucial. The garden surrounding the house, once my sanctuary of peace, was now also a reminder of the battle that lay ahead. I sat on a weathered bench, devoid of the blossoms that had once flourished under my care. The sunlight filtering through the branches evoked a bittersweet nostalgia, illuminating whispers of happier days. Yet now it symbolized the potential for a fresh beginning. In my heart, I knew I had to confront Alex and Marissa, not as the meek sister they had taken for granted, but as a woman ready to claim what was rightfully hers. It was time to gather every ounce of evidence and reveal the secrets buried beneath their treachery. Days turned into a blur as I mapped out my strategy, feeling emboldened with each new piece of information I collected. Soon, I found myself back in the family office where my father's belongings remained untouched. The scent of old wood and leather lingered in the air as I pushed aside years of dust to uncover the remains of our family's legacy. Caroling through the memories made amidst inspired conversations, I rifled methodically through files on the desk. As I searched, something caught my eye. An aged envelope, yellowed and slightly crumpled. Inside, I discovered letters exchanged between my father and Gerald, a correspondence that delved into estate planning and adjustments over the years. Each letter outlined adjustments intended to protect his children, emphasizing his desire for fairness amidst the complexities of our family dynamics. But as I had feared, there were also entries concerning my family's machinations to sideline me, a poignant reminder that my inheritance remained more than just wealth. It was a testament to my father's love, now twisted by betrayal. As I sat at the heavy desk where my father had spent countless nights working to secure our family's future, a swell of emotion enveloped me. This letter became the cornerstone of not only my claim to the trust, but also evidence that they had not only plotted against me but had conspired to erase my existence entirely. It was a tragedy that needed exposing. I meticulously filed away the newfound documentation, heart racing with each discovery. The more evidence I gathered, the more confidence blossomed within me. I was no longer an overlooked daughter, but a woman with a purpose. a daughter defending her father's wishes. After gathering sufficient evidence, I made a call to Gerald once again. I was eager yet anxious, ready to equip myself with the final pieces of the puzzle. When he answered, I could feel the urgency in his tone. "Clara, you sound different. What's going on?" "I need you to tell me everything about the trust, about how we can leverage it," I said, pressing for details. He was silent for a moment, and I imagined him furrowing his brow, analyzing my tone. "Are you sure you're ready for this? You need to approach carefully." I was uncertain whether it was the gravity of my intention or nonchalance that made me feel so buoyant at that moment. "I'm certain. It's time to bring this to light. I won't let them continue treating me like this." Gerald explained how the trust was indeed set up to protect me in case my father was ever unable to make decisions on his own. He revealed that if I invoked my rights, it would bring about necessary scrutiny on their decisions. "It was created to ensure you would not be an afterthought in your father's legacy, Clara. You have every right to confront them." A wash of empowerment surged through me, and I felt certain that the time had come to act. Over the next few days, I undid all my expectations and readied myself for the impending confrontation. I meticulously planned an early evening gathering, inviting only close friends, individuals who had never wavered in their support for me. I wanted them to witness the truth as it unfurled. As the appointed day drew closer, I worked on my speech, crafting every detail to ensure that it would leave no room for doubt. My friends arrived one by one, their encouragement infusing me with courage. They were a small enclave of support, the kind of people who would always stand by my side. When they settled into the living room, the atmosphere thick with anticipation, I felt the weight of the moment enveloping me. Before I went any further, I glanced at the coffee table where my documents lay neatly arranged. I could already envision their faces, Alex and Marissa's surprise mirrored in confusion, then dread, as I unveiled the truth hidden from them. My resolve strengthened even further. I wouldn't allow their schemes to trample on my future or legacy. I called the gathering to order, letting the anticipation linger thick in the air. With everyone present, my heart pulsating with energy, I prepared to confront my brother and sister-in-law. I would not shy away from revealing the documents. I would stand firm, showing that even in their duplicity, I remained resolute in pursuing what was right. And in that moment of suspenseful silence, I promised myself that this injustice would finally be addressed. They had underestimated me, but I was resolute in demonstrating that Clara Evans was not someone to be cast aside. The time was near for the tide to turn, and the light of truth would blaze brightly through their darkness. During those darkest days, I found a framework that changed everything for me. The complete guide I followed is outlined in the first comment below. It might help if you're facing something similar. I took a deep breath, steeling my nerves, and prepared to unveil what had long been concealed. My voice would break through the walls they had erected, echoing strength against their lies as I stepped toward the destiny I intended to reclaim. Please confirm if you would like to continue with Section 4. The evening had settled into a serene din, a contrast to the storm brewing within me. My friends, loyal and unwavering, filled the living room with warmth, grounding me as I mentally rehearsed what I would say. The soft glow of the lamps highlighted their supportive smiles. Each one was a silent reminder of the strength that surrounded me. But despite this comfort, doubts crept in. What if I failed? What if my revelations only fueled their contempt? But I pushed those thoughts aside, steeling myself for the confrontation that awaited just beyond the horizon. Tonight was a turning point in my life, one that would unveil the veil of deceit my brother and sister-in-law had cast over my existence, an existence they had sought to erase entirely. Finally, the doorbell rang, and a wave of nervous energy coursed through me. It was time. As I welcomed Alex and Marissa into our home, I sensed the shift in the atmosphere. Their laughter echoed through the halls, buoyant and untroubled, completely unaware of the tempest that was about to engulf them. "Clara, what a nice surprise," Alex exclaimed, but his tone held an edge that told me he sensed something unusual. The way his eyes darted around the room, searching for clues, made me suppress a smirk. Little did he know that he had unwittingly stepped into the lion's den. After the pleasantries and small talk faded, I intentionally steered the conversation towards family memories, allowing nostalgia to weave a thread through our discourse. I wanted them relaxed, lulled into a false sense of security before the truth came crashing down like a tidal wave. I recounted cherished memories, our childhood adventures, the laughter echoing in the halls during the holidays. While my tone was light, my mind was racing, plotting the final moment of revelation. Just as Marissa began recounting a particularly embarrassing moment from my teenage years, her words clearly meant to humiliate me. My heart surged. I took a deep breath, locking eyes with the group of friends who stood as my support system. It was time to pivot the narrative. "Actually, there's something I'd like to discuss," I interjected, my voice steady, resolute. "Something that involves all of you." Their smiles faltered slightly, and I pressed on, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "Recently, I discovered some documents related to our father's estate." I paused for effect, watching their expressions twist as they exchanged quick glances. Specifically, documents detailing a trust set up just for me. The shift in the room was palpable, tension knotting itself tightly in the air. They could sense my conviction, the fire behind my words, and it rattled them. Alex quickly opened his mouth, but the words evaporated before he could voice a challenge. Marissa's brow furrowed, her earlier confidence draining away. "I'm sure you both remember the conversations Dad had about fairness and protection?" I continued, my voice unwavering. "Well, I finally have those papers, and they reveal the extent to which our father wanted to ensure that I would not be sidelined in any decisions regarding our family and its wealth." Before they could respond, I retrieved the trust documents from the coffee table and spread them out before my audience. My friends leaned in to view the evidence, clearly intrigued by the unfolding drama. "It's quite revealing, actually. It states here," I pointed to a section emphasizing the necessity of consultations among beneficiaries, "and it outlines how unilateral decisions regarding our family's legacy are not permitted unless all parties are in agreement." It seems some people thought they could operate outside of this. Alex's face flushed crimson, guilt washing over him. Marissa's hands fidgeted nervously, her eyes darting back and forth as if searching for an escape. It was clear that my revelations were hitting home. "You know, I was so blindsided by the betrayal I felt," I continued, my tone shifting slightly to a more personal level. "But as I read through these documents, I realized that the family we once were, the love we shared, is still there, nestled amongst the deceit." Their shocked silence filled the space, and I leaned in further, sensing that I had them cornered. "It seems you both have taken steps to sideline me completely, planning to sell our childhood home and possibly forge my signature on documents." Marissa scoffed, but her bravado felt paper-thin. "Those are baseless accusations, Clara. You have no proof." "Oh, but I do," I countered, pulling out the emails I'd gathered, the ones that detailed their plans to restructure our father's estate. "You see, this isn't just about the money or the house. It's about respect, family loyalty. You've tried to erase me, but you will not succeed." The air shifted yet again. The realization that I wasn't just bluffing struck them both heavily. "Clara," Alex began, but the apology he might have offered was swallowed by my determination. "I'm not looking for a fight, but I will not be dismissed any longer," I affirmed, my tone now fierce and unwavering. "Our father entrusted all of us, including me, to look after one another. You two sought to bury that, but it won't happen." The tension crackled like live wires as I locked gazes with each of them, holding the weight of my newfound evidence in my hands. Their plans would come crumbling down, as would the fortress built on lies. Just then, my phone buzzed, and I glanced down to see a message from Gerald confirming our meeting later for further legal discussions regarding the trust. "Tonight, I'm leaving with the assurance that I won't let anyone manipulate me or this family ever again," I concluded, a sense of triumph swelling within me. "Trust that the truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply you bury it." I stepped back, letting my words hang heavily in the air. The silence that enveloped the room spoke volumes, and the potential for a reckoning had finally manifested. As I turned to my friends, I felt their warm support wrapping around me like a shield. reinforcing the strength I had cultivated through this arduous journey. They saw my pain, but they also saw my resolve, a woman ready to reclaim her identity and legacy. "Clara," Marissa finally spoke, her bravado cracking. "We can work this out." "Work out your betrayal?" I replied, shaking my head. I have no interest in being manipulated ever again. As I prepared to end the discussion, I felt empowered, knowing that the foundation had been laid for my next steps. And during those darkest days, I found a framework that changed everything for me. The complete guide I followed is outlined in the first comment below. It might help if you're facing something similar. With each truth laid bare, I knew the tide had turned irrevocably. This was not the end, but rather the catalyst for a new beginning, a chance to rebuild not just my place in this world, but the very essence of who I was. Please confirm if you would like to continue with Section 5. The air in the room was heavy with unresolved tension, my declaration echoing in the silence. Alex and Marissa stood frozen, their facade crumbling as they grappled with the implications of what I had revealed. My friends surrounded me, a protective circle of support that whispered of solidarity and strength. I felt the weight of the world lift from my shoulders, yet the battle was far from over. After the confrontation, I left my friends to engage Alex and Marissa, who were immersed in a tense discussion. Rather than pursuing further arguments, I focused on my next steps with renewed energy. I had gathered enough evidence to bring the truth to light, but now it was time to develop a careful plan of action. I needed to secure my rights to the trust and ensure that my voice was finally heard. The next day, I met with Gerald again, our conversation laden with tension and urgency. He had been my rock during this tumultuous journey, and I knew I could rely on him to navigate this next phase. As I stepped into his office, the smell of old books and polished wood enveloped me, offering a sense of comfort as I prepared to set the wheels in motion. "Clara," he said, motioning for me to sit, "it seems you've made significant strides. What's your plan?" I need to set up a meeting with Alex and Marissa. "The sooner, the better," I urged, determination fueling my words. "I want them to face the consequences of their actions. They can no longer dictate the terms of my existence." Gerald nodded, his eyes betraying a mix of concern and admiration. "I can arrange that. It'll be crucial for you to come prepared, with all the evidence in hand and an idea of what you want to achieve from this meeting." I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. I want them to understand that I am entitled to my rightful share of our father's estate, and I won't accept anything less than full transparency moving forward. As we plotted and planned, we crafted a strategy that was methodical and detailed. Gerald would represent me, ensuring that every legal aspect was covered. In the process, I began to gather my thoughts on how to confront Alex and Marissa. I wanted to harness my anger and grief into something constructive, turning it into a strategy that would leave no room for their lies. Days turned into a week, and I spent hours preparing my case, organizing documents, and anticipating their reactions. I felt the pulse of the approaching showdown quicken within me, an exhilarating blend of dread and empowerment. The more I organized, the clearer my path became. I mapped out every grievance I had, not just the financial betrayal, but the emotional one. Each incident weighed heavily on me. Their laughter when I was brushed aside, the way they had crafted a narrative that painted me as the unwelcome sister, a burden. I harnessed that pain, promising myself that it would fuel my pursuit of justice. On the day of the meeting, I arrived at Gerald's office, a warm feeling of solidarity wrapping around me like a protective cloak. My friends had rallied to support me once again. They awaited me outside, ready to stand by my side during the confrontation. My heart raced as the meeting loomed on the horizon, and I could feel the electric tension simmering just beneath the surface. When we gathered in a conference room, Alex and Marissa arrived together, a reluctant duo. Their irritation was palpable, their faces drawn as they leased unsure glances at each other. Little did they know that this was no longer their domain. The tides had turned. "Clara," Alex began, his tone skimming between defiance and forced civility, "we can talk this through. There is every need for this conversation, Alex," I interrupted, my voice steady. "You both need to understand that I will claim my share of our father's estate. This isn't just about the money, it's about our family's honor and legacy." Marissa scoffed, defiance rising in her tone. "You think we would let you just waltz in and take everything? There's more at stake here than you know." With the papers I had meticulously gathered finally spread before me, I stood my ground. "I'm not taking anything that isn't rightfully mine," I countered, unleashing all the energy I had channeled into my purpose. "In fact, I already have proof of your plans to sideline me, to erase me from our family narrative altogether. You should both be ashamed." Both Alex and Marissa's expressions shifted from defensiveness to something else, a flicker of fear biting at their arrogance. I felt buoyed by a surge of confidence, emboldened by their sudden uncertainty. Gerald quietly observed, strategically placing helpful documents in front of me, adding weight to my case. "This meeting is to align our priorities. Your wrongful dismissal of my involvement in this family's legacy stops now," I added, my tone unwavering. "We will establish new ground rules. I want full transparency regarding the entirety of our father's estate going forward. No more lies, no more deceit." The room fell silent as they processed the implications of my words. I felt empowered, invigorated by the collective energy of my friends standing behind me, fueling my resolve. "I think it's time for you to realize that the balance has shifted," Gerald interjected, his professional tone cutting through the tension. "Clara is fully entitled to her inheritance, and any attempts to prevent that, especially when driven by jealousy or greed, will only heighten your legal liabilities." I could see the gears turning in their minds, the calculated strategies they had once devised slowly unraveling before them. For the first time, I sensed them appreciate the shift in power dynamics. I had climbed out of the pit they had tried to shove me into, and I was reclaiming my status. Alex finally surrendered to reality, his shoulders slumping slightly. "All right, Clara. We understand this matters to you, but let's consider how we can navigate this moving forward." "Consider my perspective as well," I replied firmly. "We are either a family moving together or enemies in a war. Your choice." In that moment, I realized that as long as I stood unwavering, the tides of injustice would change. With Gerald leading the way, the path toward resolution had begun to unfold. After the years of feeling inadequate, unworthy, the time for justice had finally arrived, and I would fight to ensure that my father's legacy, and my own, was honored. And during those darkest days, I found a framework that changed everything for me. The complete guide I followed is outlined in the first comment below. It might help if you're facing something similar. As we wrapped up the meeting, a sense of relief filled me, and I knew that the fight was worth every ounce of energy. I was no longer the meek sister. I was a daughter reclaiming her voice and her place in a family forged by love, one that could finally mend its bruises and heal. Please confirm if you would like to continue with Section 6. The weeks following our pivotal meeting felt like a delicate dance, a step forward followed by 2 steps back as I maneuvered the complex emotions swirling around our family. I was determined to reclaim my rightful place. But as the dust settled from our confrontation, I realized the real struggle was yet to come. Each interaction with Alex and Marissa was now filled with a simmering undercurrent, a tension that tightened the air between us. They tried to maintain a facade of control, but I could sense their unease lurking just beneath, showing cracks in the scheme they had built. One afternoon, nostalgia washed over me as I stood in our childhood home. The place was rich with memories, photos on the walls depicting happier times, moments of laughter and warmth, but also reminders of the betrayal that now colored my relationship with Alex and Marissa. I could no longer allow the weight of those memories to anchor me down. It was time to take a stand, to redefine what our family had come to symbolize. I decided to call a family gathering in the backyard, a space where my childhood was painted with love and laughter. It felt significant to convene there, to invoke the place where our bonds had been forged, and perhaps reignite what was lost. I reached out to relatives and a few close friends, asking them to rally in support of a fractured sister standing against betrayal. Days turned into anticipation as I prepared for the confrontation. I could hardly sleep, my thoughts racing with both hope and fear. The gathering was fast approaching, and I had envisioned a burst of emotion and truth to express what had been bottled up for far too long. The day of the gathering arrived, and the backyard buzzed with activity. The familiar sense of grilled food wafted through the air, triggering nostalgic memories of summer afternoons with family. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself as I prepared to speak. When the guests assembled, a hush settled over the crowd, the inviting warmth now replaced with the weight of expectation. "Thank you all for being here today," I began, my voice shaky but resolute. "Today isn't just a reunion. It's a chance for us to confront some very serious issues that have weighed heavily on my heart." I motioned for Alex and Marissa to step forward, an act that mirrored the gravity of the moment. "We need to address the changes in our family dynamics and the impact of betrayal," I stated firmly, my eyes locked onto Alex's. "Your actions have consequences that affect all of us." As I spoke, I felt the support of relatives who stood behind me, fueling my courage. I sensed the murmur of disbelief ripple through the crowd as I continued, cutting through the tension with each word. "You both chose to hide behind lies, trying to erase me from our father's legacy, but I refuse to let that happen any longer." Marissa's eyebrows drew together in surprise, but I could see anger bubbling beneath her calm exterior. "Clara, you can't act as if this is just about you," she snapped, though her voice wavered slightly, revealing her loss of confidence. "No, I won't allow you to frame it that way," I shot back. "This is about restoring truth and fairness. Our father's legacy was built on love and equity, and you have betrayed that." Gasps echoed among my relatives as my words hung in the air. I felt invigorated, emboldened by their collective energy, each one supporting the truth I fought to express. I could see Alex and Marissa falter, their defenses slipping as the weight of their wrongdoing settled upon them. "You need to realize the damage you've done, not just to me, but to our family as a whole," I implored, flicking my gaze from Alex to Marissa. "If family means anything, it means being truthful with one another. I deserve to reclaim the inheritance, not just financially, but as a rightful daughter and sister." A chilling silence enveloped the gathering. I could feel the internal struggle take hold of Alex, his mind racing as he calculated his next move. But instead of responding defensively, he seemed to surrender to the moment. "Perhaps we need to rethink how we've approached this," he finally admitted, words tumbling from his mouth as he glanced at Marissa for confirmation. I felt a small thrill of victory. "It's not just about money," I continued, my voice steady now. "We have to restore trust and transparency within our family. This is the opportunity to heal what's been broken and create a future together, rather than getting trapped in resentment and lies." I turned to face my relatives and friends who were gathered around us, their faces filled with concern and hope. "I don't want conflict. I want a family rooted in honesty, one where we can encourage and support one another, not tear each other apart." Slowly, I began to see the tension easing in Alex and Marissa's postures. Their haughty defenses were faltering under the weight of my determination. It was a significant shift, and in that moment, a flicker of possibility ignited within me. "If we cannot respect our father's wishes, then what kind of family are we?" I challenged. "It's time for a change, a rebirth for what we can become." But that can only happen if we acknowledge the betrayals and seek a genuine restart. Alex's demeanor shifted as he locked eyes with me, his bravado finally fading. "We can talk about it," he said quietly, almost pleading. "Let's try to negotiate, to find a way to include you, not as a burden, but as our sister." Hearing those words felt like something breaking free inside me. "Then let's do this right, and together," I said, relief flooding my veins. "I want us to heal, but I cannot compromise my principles in the process." And during those darkest days, I found a framework that changed everything for me. The complete guide I followed is outlined in the first comment below. It might help if you're facing something similar. As I looked around the gathered faces, a weight lifted. I saw forgiveness flicker in some eyes, while others seemed filled with hope. Slowly, the possibility of reconciliation dawned with newfound clarity. This gathering would become a foundation for healing, a step toward mending not just my wounds but the fabric of our family's future. With my heart pounding, I realized we could transform pain into growth, uprooting betrayal and planting seeds of trust. Perhaps our family was not lost after all. It could heal if we chose to face the storm together. This was our chance, not just for me, but for all of us to rediscover what family truly meant. Please confirm if you would like to continue with Section 7. As the aftermath of our gathering unfolded, a remarkable transformation took place. With each passing week, the animosity that had once suffocated our family atmosphere gradually began to lift. Alex and Marissa, who had stood rigid with defenses at the ready, started seeking collaboration instead of confrontation. Each interaction felt like a brick removed from the wall built between us, allowing room for warmth and healing. We held regular family meetings, each filled with constructive dialogue, reconciliation, and even shared laughter. I felt the empowerment of being included, a welcome shift from the shadows where I had spent so long. My father's absence was still palpable, but his legacy began to shine through as we honored his spirit by striving for connection. The day we finalized the restructuring of the family trust was monumental. Sitting around the dining table where countless meals had been shared, we each signed a new agreement that marked a new beginning. I felt a profound sense of belonging. This was finally a step towards fairness and unity. In the days following, family dinners became more joyful. We embraced laughter that echoed through the walls, shared stories about our past, and rekindled lost connections. I could feel the old wounds slowly healing, making way for new, vibrant memories. Every gathering was a reminder that we were not just bound by blood, but also by the desire to grow together. One evening, as I rinsed the dishes after a particularly lively dinner, Alex approached me, his demeanor earnest. "Clara," he began, breaking the comfortable silence, "I need to apologize, not just for what happened with the trust, but for losing sight of what really mattered, the love of family." I looked up, surprised by his honesty. "I appreciate that, Alex. It takes courage to acknowledge the past, and I valued our journey together toward healing." It felt liberating to have this conversation, to break the cycle of resentment. "Let's focus on what we can build together," he said with a hopeful smile. "You've shown me the importance of family, and I want to make it right. They thought they had left me with nothing. If this story is touching your heart, please consider sending a super chat to support the channel. Are you enjoying this journey with me? Show your support by sending super stickers. Did you feel that sense of justice? Show your appreciation by clicking the super thanks button.